Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. And now, max out your savings. The more you buy, the more you save on beds, bases, and more. Plus, get free home delivery on any smart bed with base. Limited time. Check it out at a Sleep Number store near you or at sleepnumber.com today.
Have you ever been in a situation where you're getting to know someone and it seems to be going really well until out of nowhere they say something and you're like, should I be worried about this? Or maybe looking back on something that ended, you can clearly spot a glaring red flag that you totally missed or decided to not pay attention to in that moment. Well, after this episode, you are not going to be in that situation again. Today, we're getting into the top red flag phrases to never ignore in early dating. And welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia. I'm sharing no-nonsense advice for navigating dating and relationships with confidence and ease. Whether you've been dating for a while or you're just starting out, I believe dating can be fun. And part of the fun is not repeating your old mistakes. And that means paying attention to red flags when they do show up. Sometimes they don't show up, which is great, but a lot of times they do. And I really don't want you to miss them. And one of the reasons I started this podcast is because dating will put you in so many scenarios where you're like, did I really just hear that? Did this person really just say this to me? And sometimes that's in a good way. And just sometimes it's not. Here's the challenge though. There will be moments where you'll be on a date with someone who seems great on paper, checks all your boxes, is super attractive, and you have physical chemistry with. And when you hear these things, you might miss it because you were distracted by their smile, or you might excuse it because they're just so hot and the date is going so well. Or sometimes you're just too nervous or even maybe too compassionate to give these red flag phrases the attention they deserve. As your coach, I'm here to train you to catch these phrases early so that you can avoid people who just aren't on your level, even if they look and seem like they are. In this episode, I'm going to break down the top 11 red flag phrases ranked in order from bad to even worse, what they actually mean, and what you can say or do when they pop up. At the end, we're getting into a new dating dilemma that kind of begs the question, is it me or is it them? And we're going to do another round of my new segment, Dating Done Right. Before we jump in, I just want to remind you that you can watch all of these episodes on YouTube, and I have even more dating dilemmas there. My channel is called Dating Intentionally, and it's linked in the show notes. Also, you can slide into my DMs anytime on Instagram at dating.intentionally. I love hearing from you, and I'm so glad that this podcast is helping you make decisions that are aligned with what you want. That's all I want for you, is just to help you in that process, making sure that you're staying aligned with what you want and deserve. Okay. So let's get on the same page about what a red flag is, because I feel like sometimes there's a little confusion around all these terms. Most of the time, a red flag means that you need clarification or more information. They're not always going to be immediate deal breakers, but they're just things that you should dig into to figure out if they're deal breakers or not. So a red flag just means I need to pay attention to this and I need to dig deeper. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to walk away from this. That's just a deal breaker at that point. That's the difference. So this top 11 list is a mix from my personal dating experience, like things people actually said to me, and it includes stuff from your experiences based on stories that you listeners have shared with me. And we're going to start with, the best of the worst to the absolute worst. And the reason it's 11 is because I spent a lot of time on this list and figuring out what should go where. I really felt all 11 were very important. So I couldn't narrow it down to 10. I just couldn't cut that last one. So we're starting with number 11. And that is the phrase, I'm bad at texting. This one is so annoying. And the reason that's number 11 is that, texting, it matters a little bit in early dating because you use it to make plans, keep the momentum going and show interest. But ultimately, it doesn't matter in the long term of a relationship. You don't really text once you live with someone. And when you're in an established relationship, texting just isn't as big of a deal. It's important in the beginning. So the translation for I'm bad at texting is just the translation for this one's tricky because it could mean a few things. It could mean that someone has told them that in the past, like you're not good at texting. It could mean that they maybe have ADHD or something that causes them to not be as responsive. Also, if they have kids, if they have something else in their life that just pulls them away from their phone, they don't check their phone often, that is valid. Or it could just be that they don't care enough about you and anyone they date to be responsive. So the translation on this one is just kind of dependent, which is why it is the best of the worst, because it has a big fat "it depends." The real red flag here is when they know they're not responsive and they're bad at texting, and they don't provide a valid reason, and they don't show or have any desire to improve, even when they know it's holding them back from creating a long-term connection. But that's not always the case. Some people are just bad at texting and they do actually make a noticeable effort to be more responsive. So if this phrase comes up, do your best to dig into why they said that and, why they believe that about themselves. Someone being bad at texting, could be the wrong fit for you if you really need that consistency and reassurance in the beginning, which no judgment. But it can work if they're willing to step up a bit so you can easily make plans and move the relationship forward. If they're willing to use a different method of communication like phone calls and FaceTime, that could work too. So that's why this is like the most harmless one, because there are a lot of different ways to navigate dating a bad texter if they're open to improving, if they're open to different methods of communication. But it sometimes is just like, I'm bad at texting and I have no desire to put in effort at all. So you need to do digging to figure out which one it is. The number 10 red flag phrase is, I don't know if I feel a romantic spark or romantic connection. That's the alternate. How frustrating is that? To hear that from someone, that you're getting to know, I just don't feel a romantic connection. This is kind of a breakup line, but I'm put it on this list because sometimes the translation is like, I'm not feeling romantic chemistry that I expected to feel at this point, and I'm not sure if it's going to show up, and I want you to decide for me. I've heard dozens of stories from listeners where they're dating someone, maybe a couple dates in, even up to a month in, and they hear this line. And the reason the person is saying this line is not because they're breaking up with them. They are just at a crossroads. They're like, should I wait longer to see if this romantic connection builds or shows up, or do I walk away? And so it's really frustrating. And sometimes romantic connection and chemistry can grow. And the person who's saying that may be aware of this, and they may be aware that they are historically a slow burner. So if you are hit with I'm not feeling a romantic connection, you can ask if they usually feel it quickly or if it takes them more time to figure out what it is. But again, a lot of times when you hear this phrase, it just means they're confused or they want to feel something they're not feeling and they're scared to hurt you. So they're not ending it and they hope that you will end it after they say this. They're basically trying to put the onus on you. And I don't like that. When I've been in this situation, my go-to move has just been asking them what they want to do from here. It's like, okay, thanks for telling me. Now what do you want to do? Because they're the ones with the issue. This is a them issue, not a me issue. They have to figure out what their next move is. Do they want to keep getting to know me or do they want to call it? And I'm saying this is for me personally because I was dating multiple people and I'm a slow burner myself. So this type of thing didn't faze me as much. Like if someone didn't feel a romantic spark with me and wanted to end it, cool. I had other people I was getting to know and it wasn't a big deal. But if someone said that to me months in, I'd definitely be very upset and surprised. And I know this has happened to people who are listening to this, and that totally sucks. It's kind of unacceptable. So if you hear this from someone, proceed with caution. If they say they want to keep exploring, keyword, if they want to continue to explore this, and if you like them, then yes, keep going. And make sure you continue to see effort from them. If they're like, I'm trying to figure this out and I want to keep getting to know you, make sure that they're actually following through on that. But if they follow up this line with mixed signals, hot and cold behavior, or kind of slow fade you, then you know exactly where they stand and it's time to move on. And if someone is saying this to you months in, getting to know you, walk away. Please, whatever you do, don't take this as a challenge. This is not something you need to fix or change. It's on them to figure it out. So here are some examples of what you could say. You could say, if you want to explore, you could say, I appreciate the honesty. Do you usually feel the spark right away or does it build for you? If you want to kind of put your stake in the ground, you can say, I'm open to taking things slowly, but only if you are genuinely interested in continuing to explore this. And if you want to end it, you can say, thanks for being honest. I'm just looking for something that feels mutual. So maybe it's best we call it here. All right. Number 9. This red flag phrase is, I've never been in love before, but maybe you can change that. Oof. This one sucks. It sucks because it's framed as a challenge to you. It's manipulative. The translation is, I'm untested in deep emotional connection and I'm putting the pressure on you to fix that. No, thank you. This phrase sets up a test. It's like saying, if this doesn't work out, it's because you didn't measure up. And you're put in a position where the success of the relationship is tied to your ability to make them feel something they've never felt before. What? No, that's not how you enter a healthy relationship. They're essentially just handing you the job of being the one to fix their inability to connect. And that's not your responsibility. So if this ever comes up, don't take the bait, okay? That is not how love works. It takes two, and it's not all on you to be special enough or whatever. You are special enough right now. Personally, I would run if someone said this to me. But there are some responses that you could have in the moment. You could be like, okay, that's interesting. What makes you feel like you haven't experienced love yet? And what are you doing to be ready for it, right? You can dig deeper to see if they can actually be real. I don't like to believe that everyone is coming off as manipulative or trying to manipulate. Sometimes people just say stupid shit and they don't really realize how it sounds. So that's why, again, this is a red flag. You can dig a little deeper into it and be like, are they testing me or do they just not know how they sound? You can also call them out and say something like, that's a lot of pressure to put on someone you're just getting to know, because it is. Or you can be playful and you could be like, okay, is there a cash prize if I win? Just something to kind of call out the fact that they just put up this challenge to you. Another variation of this phrase, by the way, is any mention of going on other dates. If they talk about other dates with other people on the date with you, they're also putting you in a position where you are now all aware that this is a competition, that you are competing. And I don't like that for you. I don't think anyone should be talking about their other dates with you, and you shouldn't be doing that either. Even if we kind of know on some level it's happening, when you put it on the table like that, it's like, this is now a competition. Obviously, multi-dating is very common in our dating culture, right? But talking about it out loud is just bad form. If they're doing that, they either have no tact or they're actively trying to manipulate you, and it's a red flag. All right, moving along. Number 8 is I am who I am. And a variation of this is I have no filter. So the translation of I am who I am or I have no filter is I refuse to take feedback or make changes even when they're needed, and I feel entitled to say whatever I want even when it's hurtful. This is a red flag because it shows they believe that who they are is completely set in stone and they can't change even if they wanted to, which they don't. This is someone who thinks they're exempt from accountability, which does not work in a long-term relationship. You can't be in a healthy relationship with someone who doesn't take accountability. By the way, this applies to friendships and family relationships too. The whole I am who I am or I have no filter, like that is not okay. They're also straight up warning you that they know they'll behave badly in your relationship and won't do anything about it. It is just a massive warning sign. Like, I'm going to screw up and I'm going to hit you with a I am who I am or I have no filter instead of actually apologizing. The issue with I have no filter specifically is that they're saying they're going to be honest even when they know it is really hurtful. And they use brutal honesty as an excuse for when they're hurting you. Honesty is important, but healthy, secure people understand that sometimes brutal honesty isn't the way to go. And in some situations, it requires more emotional awareness, empathy, and compassion, and just sensitivity in general. Having a filter is actually really important in a relationship. You're not supposed to just say every thought that passes through your mind to your partner. That's just careless. If someone hits you with one of these lines, this is more of a situation where you can decide to step back and watch their actions closely and really pay attention to how they communicate with you, or you can decide to move on. Number 7 red flag phrase is, you must think you're so great, smart, pretty, etc. This is negging, okay? Or any variation of negging where someone is putting you down. That is a red flag. The translation of this is, I use put downs to lower your confidence and gain control. So negging usually starts small, right? With the like, you think you're this, you think you're so great, but it normalizes disrespect. And over time, it can actually escalate into more overt criticism, gaslighting, or emotional abuse in some cases. Someone who's really secure in themselves does not need to chip away at you to feel good about themselves. Negging usually is a sign of immaturity and emotional unavailability. And I want to also point out there's a really big difference between negging and flirty teasing. Flirty teasing is fine because you're laughing with each other, you're both laughing and connecting. It's playful, it's not attacking your identity or self worth. It's less at your expense and more like creating an inside joke. One sign that you are engaging in flirty teasing is that you feel closer and more connected, right? And a sign that someone's negging you is that you feel smaller, insecure, or like you need to prove something. With negging, you're going to feel confused. You're going to be like, what? Are you trying to flirt and failing? And if you push back, if you kind of say like, hey, that's kind of rude, they'll say something like, relax, it was just a joke, and dismiss your reaction. So when someone is negging you, you can say something like, that sounded more like an insult than a joke. They might apologize. Like some people, again, say stupid shit and they don't realize how it lands. So if they're actually apologetic and like, you know what, you're right, that was a little too harsh, I think that's okay. And just see if they repeat that pattern. Like, will that be a pattern? You could say something like, cute, do you always flirt by putting people down? Like kind of give it back to them. Or you can be serious and be like, what do you mean by that? I love a what do you mean by that to call out someone's really bad joke. And just remember that someone who is secure and not a red flag will apologize and adjust, and they won't repeat that mistake. Someone who's manipulative and toxic will double down and tell you to relax. No, thank you. Moving right along, let's talk about number 6, which is a kind of a double because I had a hard time condensing this list. Number 6 is I'm figuring things out with my ex / my ex is crazy. So again, I know this is 2 different things, but they both fall into the category of talking about an ex. So this is my way of squeezing it in. When someone says, I'm figuring out things with my ex, this is a moment to dig in and ask what they mean. Don't hesitate, right? Don't wait 3 weeks later and be like, what do you mean by that? Do it in that moment. So, because the translation of this is, my ex is still in my life in some capacity. So this could mean they're in the process of a separation and divorce, which, okay, fine. This could mean that they're co-parenting or dealing with some other situation that requires them to be in touch with their ex, like they see each other at work, or they're just kind of dealing with something that makes them be tied together for some reason. Or it could mean that they're discussing getting back together or still actively hooking up. And all of these aren't great, but this specifically is the worst one and should be avoided at all costs. So just know this is a reason why it's a red flag. It's not a deal breaker. If someone says, I'm still figuring things out with my ex, dig deeper, get to know what specifically they mean by that. If someone mentions a crazy ex, the stereotype is that they're actually the one that caused the crazy, that they're the one who caused the breakup in some form. But this is still worth digging into. Is it one crazy one, or have they all been given this label? Was it a one offhand comment, or do they consistently bring up their ex and use this type of language? Because that's way worse. Is there more to the story? And do they acknowledge their part in the breakup and why things went wrong? That could also redeem the situation here. What I'm trying to say is that a mention of an ex in a negative light isn't always a deal breaker. It is worth digging into just to get more clarity and understanding. And also you can zoom out to see if they repeat this behavior before deciding what to do. Obviously, if someone continues to bring up a crazy ex or exes, plural, that's your cue to move along. And if they actively hang out with their ex one-on-one and they recently broke up and you're getting the vibe that they're still romantically connected, trust your gut. That is also a sign to run. Okay, let's take a quick break here and then we'll get into our top 5 red flag phrases. What I love about doing this show is that I get to introduce listeners to all these different ways to get support in their dating journeys. And one of the main ways is therapy. You've probably heard me talk about how working with a therapist for the last 7 or 8 years has helped me improve not just my romantic relationship, but my friendships and my family relationships too. The hard part is finding a therapist that actually works with your insurance. Having done it a few times, I can tell you from experience, it's harder than it sounds. That's why I'm so excited to partner with Rula, a healthcare company that makes getting quality therapy simple and affordable. Rula works with most major insurance plans, and sessions can cost as little as $15, sometimes even $0, depending on your coverage. This is huge. If you've ever worked with a therapist, you know sometimes the cost can be astronomical, and I love that Rula makes it easier on your wallet. Finding a therapist on your own can be overwhelming, but Rula supports you every step of the way, helping you find the right therapist, stay consistent, and actually make progress. They have a network of over 15,000 licensed therapists and psychiatrists across the country, and they'll match you with someone who fits your needs and preferences. You can start meeting with your therapist as soon as the next day. Thousands have already trusted Rula to support them on their journey toward improved mental health and overall well-being. Head over to rula.com/datingintentionally to get started today. After you sign up, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Go to rula.com/datingintentionally and take the first step towards better mental health today. You deserve quality care from someone who cares. One question I get asked a lot about my dating journey is, how did you manage to go on 150 dates in a year? Part of it is because I was determined to master dating, and the other part of it, well, it's because I am really big into routines. I don't know who I am without my routines. They keep me on track with everything from having relationship check ins with my husband to getting to the gym 4 times a week to making sure I always have delicious meals ready to go in the fridge. And something I recently added to my routine that I'm so excited about is AG1. AG1 is a daily health drink clinically shown to fill in common nutrient gaps. I've been adding a scoop into my protein shakes every day, and I love having a little boost of nutrients that I know I might not be getting otherwise, especially as we head into the holiday season when our schedules get thrown off and routines pretty much go out the window. It's great to have an easy way to support your body and prioritize wellness, even with this season's chaos. I've been using AG1's original flavor, which tastes like pineapple and vanilla, in my daily shake, and it's so good. I love that it helps me cover the bases with what my body needs, and with AG1, it's just so easy to do. If you're looking to boost your wellness routine, I recommend checking out AG1. Head to drinkag1.com/dating to get a free welcome kit with an AG1 flavor sampler and a bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2 when you first subscribe. That's drinkag1.com/dating. Welcome back. We're getting into the top 5 red flag phrases in early dating and what they mean. Also, I'd love to hear what you think so far in the comments. Ranking these was so hard because they're all big red flags. So if you hear this top 5 and think a different one is number 1, let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify. You can also DM me on Instagram at dating.intentionally. Coming in at number 5 is, I don't like labels. Another variation of this is, I'm just going with the flow, or let's not worry about the future and be in the moment. The translation for all of these is, I'm scared of commitment. So if you're listening to this, I'm going to assume that you want a long-term relationship and or marriage. And when you hear this phrase, this is your signal to move on, probably, especially if you're feeling like you want to find someone in the next year. Like, this is not your person. You don't have time for them to come around, and it's not on you to change their mind. The trouble with this one, though, is sometimes the person who says this shows interest and checks a lot of your boxes, and that is the trap to avoid. Like, don't negotiate with yourself to stay with someone who seems great or is really great, but you're just not aligned on dating goals. You're allowed to want a label down the line. You're allowed to think about the future when getting to know someone, and you're allowed to not want to go with the flow and go in a specific direction with your relationship. There's a huge difference between someone who says, I ultimately want a relationship and I'm actively getting to know people to see if it goes that way, and I'm just going with the flow. Like, yes, there is a flow to getting to know someone. And on this show, we love a slow burn, but a slow burn still has a direction, and that direction should be what you want. Don't settle for the ambiguity they feel more comfortable with if you want commitment. So when someone says this to you and that they don't like labels or they're going with the flow, you can say something like, I respect that, but I'm looking for something with long-term potential. And if we're not on the same page, that's okay. I just don't want to invest in something casual or undefined. Cool, clear, love it. You can also say something like, I'm not in a rush, but I am dating with intention. If you're unsure about where this is going, we're probably not a match. And just see what they say. I mean, again, you are not here to negotiate. You're not here to wait for someone, but I think it's okay to say this and just see how they respond. Coming in at number 4, the classic, you're too good for me. Variations on this one are, I don't deserve you, I'm not good enough to be with you, and you deserve better than me. Have you heard any of these? Oof, this is one of the worst ones. And I've heard this many times, and it's always a huge turnoff and a massive red flag. The translation for this one is, I don't believe I can meet your needs, and I want you to lower your expectations or walk away so I don't have to. Here's why it's a red flag. It puts you in the position of reassuring them constantly and proving that you'll stay even though they feel like they're not worthy. It creates an uneven power dynamic where you're the strong one and they're the damaged one. And it preps you for a future of underperformance by lowering the bar early. They're basically saying, you're too good for me and I'm not going to rise to that. Like, I'm not even going to try. Ultimately, the person who says this, whether they realize it or not, is coming off as insecure. And if you've ever said this, know that it is not the compliment that you might think it is. If someone says something like, I'm not good enough, or you're too good for me, here are some ways you can respond. You could be like, why do you feel that way? Or what would being good enough look like to you? This type of response allows you to open up a conversation to see where they're coming from and dig in a little more. Or you can be ever so slightly reassuring and say something like, I don't see it that way, but if you believe that, it might be something you need to work on before getting serious with someone. Whatever you say, whatever you do, don't fall for the reassurance bait. Okay, wanting reassurance in a relationship is perfectly normal, but doing it this way and giving someone reassurance in this situation is exhausting because, okay, it's one thing if they say it one time, but if they're saying any kind of variation of this often, then no amount of reassurance in the world is going to change anything. Trust me. All right, we're moving into our top 3. This is exciting. Number 3 is, you're amazing, but I don't know if you're my forever match. So this is someone who feels romantically connected to you, but doesn't see you in their life as their long-term person. So annoying. And the translation is, you're not who I envisioned myself being with, but I like you and I want you in my life, even though I don't see it long-term. And here's why this is so hard to hear. Okay. It kind of sounds like a compliment in a way. Like, I like you so much. It still puts you in a gray area. You're great, but you're not right for me. And it also leaves you questioning what's missing. And this is the trap to avoid. You're questioning what's missing, and then you feel like it's on you to make up for it somehow, or like they're putting you in that position of like, you're really great, but you're missing the mark on, and they're trying to like, what are you supposed to do with that information? Really? It also makes you feel disposable, like you're good enough for now, but not for forever. People say this because maybe they're trying to let you down easy. They don't want to hurt you, or they don't trust their connection with you, and they don't trust themselves, right? If they're saying this, they could be comparing you to an ideal or an ex or some fantasy version of the one, which is the worst. Or they're just scared of settling or missing out and not getting the feeling they think that forever is supposed to come with. I'm rolling my eyes, by the way. I know you can't see that if you're listening, but I'm rolling my eyes big time. Whatever it is, this is not someone you should wait around for. Someone who actually sees you as the one is never going to say this to you. They're going to lean into it and give it a shot, and there won't be this weird hesitation. There won't be this weird power dynamic where you're like, now given the assignment of figuring out how to become their forever person. That's not how it works. And anyone who makes you feel like that is a huge red flag and someone to probably walk away from. I just hate that this puts the ball in your court, even though they have the issue. You might be on the other side thinking everything is going really well and they're great. And meanwhile, they're holding you up to some ideal that you have no control over and deciding that you don't measure up. It's a huge red flag and a sign to walk away. Okay, number 2 on the top 11 list of red flag phrases is, I know it's not going to work, but I want you in my life. This is similar to number 3, but it's a little different because of when this line usually shows up. So the translation is, I'm not able to show up for you in the way you need, and I don't want to let you go. This is one of the most toxic things someone can say to you. And so it usually comes after the point where you call it off for whatever reason, but they don't want to let you go. Usually it's because they love your attention and how you make them feel, or they can't bear to think about you with anyone else, or they want to just see if they can hook up with you. Sometimes it's because they feel bad for rejecting you, and if they're the person who did the rejecting. And that's why it's so fucked up. They're basically like, I know we don't want the same things, or I know this relationship can't work, but I still want to hang on to you and hold you back from getting the thing that you deserve. What? And this is a one-way ticket to a situationship, to be honest. Like, this is something to really avoid. Please don't fall for this. If someone says this to you, you need to be the one to initiate a clean break, no contact, and just say you're not interested in being in their life in that way. If you were the one who rejected them, like if you dumped them and they say they still want you in their life, you need to be firm. Don't fall for it. Like if they couldn't show up for you in the way you needed, they don't get to have you, and that's the whole thing. You can say something like, our time together was meaningful to me, but I think for now it's best we just don't talk so I can actually move on. And if they're the one who rejected you, again, and they're like, but I want you in my life, you can't allow them that privilege. They decided it wasn't the right fit. They don't get to have you in their life. And I'm not talking about let's just be friends. I'm talking about when there's still going to be romantic vibes there, when you're not going to be able to have that romantic clean break. Could you be friends down the line? Maybe, but not right after it's over. This is also your chance to reiterate that you want to spend your time and energy on a relationship with real potential to grow into something serious. So if anyone says this to you, it's a huge red flag and it's a sign to have a clean break with no contact so you can move on and don't waste your energy with that person anymore. Okay, the number one red flag phrase in early dating is, I'm not looking for anything serious right now, but I want to get to know you. Translation, I want the connection, attention, emotional support, and sex, but I don't want the responsibility, commitment, or clarity that comes with a real relationship. Have you heard that one before? I have so many times. In my experience, it's been said by the person who's interested in sex and not much else. It tells you that they're just not available for what you're looking for, especially if you're dating for long-term partnership, marriage, whatever. They're just being like, I'm happy to get everything I want and give you absolutely nothing that you need. They'll happily flirt with you, text you when it's convenient for them. They'll sleep with you. But the second that things get serious, they'll back off, they'll run away, they'll throw up their walls, whatever. And it puts you in this position where you'll hope they'll change your mind. You maybe think you can negotiate or convince them to have a change of heart, but don't fall for it. That is a trap. I just never want you to be in a position where they get access to you without any obligation or commitment. And this can be really hard to walk away from because they are expressing interest in you, right? Which that's important. You want someone who is showing interest. They're like, I like you. I want to get to know you. I just don't know if I'm looking for anything serious right now. So don't pay attention to that I like you part. Pay more attention to the part where they are not aligned with you. And there is no point in pursuing that. Because listen, I am holding your hand when I say this. You're not going to change their mind. This is not an invitation to wait it out or prove it to them of how great a partner you'll be or if they're missing out. It's not your job to convince anyone to commit to you. Ever. Don't negotiate. And from here, you can decide if you're okay with casual. Like if you actually do want a casual hookup with this person, great. Or you can walk away. Here are some ideas of what you can say in response. If you want to leave, if you want to walk away, you can say, I appreciate you being honest, but I'm dating with commitment in mind. And if that's not something you're open to, I'll pass. And if you want more understanding, you can say, that's totally fair. I'm just curious. Do you think that's likely to change? Or are you just being upfront that you're not in a relationship mindset? I think it's okay to get a little clarity here, but just know that this could be a trap leading right to a situationship, and it's very avoidable. So there you have it. The top 11 red flag phrases in early dating. I'd love to know which ones do you agree with or disagree with? And did I miss any of the big ones? Share below in the comments if you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube. All right, I'll be right back after this break with a dating dilemma that features a is it me or is it them kind of situation. Okay, welcome back. Let's get into today's dating dilemma. By the way, you can submit your dating dilemma to be answered on the podcast or in a new YouTube video below. There's a link there. It says submit your question. I got you. Okay. Hello, I'm so glad to have found your YouTube channel. I, 29 female, am currently dating a woman, 21 female, and we are in the early stages of dating. It's a long distance relationship. She is in Japan. For context, I'm pretty sure my attachment style is disorganized and I'm trying to heal. We have only been talking online for 3 weeks, but I can't shake this boredom. It may come from subconscious beliefs, but her behaviors are also confusing. We've had 5 calls so far, and each time we said it was fun. Recently, I felt I've initiated more than she has, and she never asked questions about me. She said she learns naturally by talking, but it makes me feel like she isn't interested. But she has stated she's interested. There's that, and I find her attractive, but she doesn't care about appearance. When I sent her a couple pictures of me, she said, I like glasses on people because I wear glasses. When I asked her if something shifted, she answered no. But because of the 15-hour time difference, she stated my schedule is hard to adjust to. When I got off work, I would take a nap, sometimes not, and make time to call her for 2 to 3 hours at a time. We have a date planned for next week, but I don't want to text her as much because she will be busy until the fall. It's hard to tell if it's a lack of compatibility, time constraints, boredom, or just attachment style and disinterest. I don't want to repeat old patterns. What advice do you have for this? And do I just need to move on or keep going? Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing this. I really appreciate you being vulnerable and telling us your story. And I want to call out that you're putting a lot of thought into this. And this is part of dating intentionally. This is what dating intentionally looks like. You're noticing things coming up and you're like, okay, what is going on here? Before you're acting, you're pausing. I love to see it. And like, I want to say it makes sense you're confused because especially with your attachment style and the long distance, I mean, these are just added layers of that can make anyone feel confused. So your question is like, am I overreacting or is this just not working? Is it her or is it me? And here's what I'll say. It's normal to feel triggered when you're dating someone, especially in a long distance relationship where you just don't get the same in-person context or cues. It's hard. But just because something is triggering you doesn't automatically mean that the relationship is good or bad. Unfortunately, it's not that black and white. It just means something is getting activated in you, and that's information, right? It's data. So let's break it down. You've been talking for 3 weeks. You're noticing that you initiate more. She doesn't ask you a lot of questions, which you don't really like. She said she's interested, but you don't feel like she is, and that's important. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. You're not sure if you're expecting too much too soon or if what you're feeling means it's just not a match. And here's the difference, between if it's you or if it's her. What's coming up for you is like your stuff, like your old patterns, familiar fears, and past wounds. Then that's a sign it's time to slow down, regulate, and stay curious. You can take a beat before reacting, but if you're noticing that this is more of a pattern in her behavior, like low effort, low engagement, lack of curiosity, that's important too. So even if you're still working through your attachment style, I don't want you to gaslight yourself out of your needs. Like, do you need someone to ask you questions? Do you need someone to compliment your appearance? Those are normal needs to have. It's totally fine. Something feels off to you, and I'm glad you're pausing and questioning it. So here's my suggestion. I would pull back slightly, not like you're playing a game. This isn't manipulative. It's more just to give yourself space to see what's real and what's just kind of like the anxiety, what's real versus what the story you're telling yourself is. And during this time, I want you to notice how she responds. Does she fill the space that you are giving her to initiate or no? Also, I want you to notice how you feel before and after you talk. Do you feel closer or more connected, or do you feel more disconnected and confused? That's really important to pay attention to. And you've alluded to conversations about your communication, so that's good. I think continuing to ask questions to understand her better can help. And I think something that might be missing here is like, just because she's able to explain how she works, she doesn't ask questions, she doesn't care about appearance, that doesn't mean that you have to accept that or mold to that if that doesn't really work for you. Just because she's giving you real information and clarity on her behavior, that doesn't mean that it's going to work necessarily. You get to decide if you like her behavior and if you want to continue to choose getting to know her. To me, it sounds like you want this to work and you want to like her and you want to see if this can work out, but she's not giving you a lot. And I think the long distance aspect makes it even harder, which you're aware of. So I think in these early stages, it's important to keep getting to know other people, continue entertaining other matches while you get to know this person, because you don't need this one to work out. Don't ever forget that. I hope this helps. Thanks again for writing in. And again, you can submit your dating dilemma in the show notes. They're anonymous and I love reading them. I love answering them on YouTube. So thank you. All right, to wrap this episode up, I have a segment for you called Dating Done Right, where you are sharing your wins with the community. So thank you to everyone who's been submitting your dating wins. I love reading them. They're so inspiring. And what I love about dating wins is that this isn't just about people getting into relationships. It's about people making decisions that align with what they want. So here's one. I recently went on a date with a guy who's so nice, kind, and funny, and he's really into video games, and I'm not. Normally, I would try to mask my way into liking video games since he's so nice, but this time I straight up told him that I don't play. Apparently, that was a deal breaker for him because he didn't ask me out again, and initially I was a little sad, but then I realized that it wouldn't work long term if one of his needs is having a partner who enjoys playing games with him. By staying true and honest to myself, I saved us both from wasting our time in looking for a long-term relationship. Still trying to maintain a belief that I will find someone to build a life with. Thank you for all your work in this space. I love this win because instead of trying to mold herself to someone else's preferences, she was just true to herself, realized it wasn't a match. She didn't take it personally. He didn't take it personally. It's just, okay, I need this. This is not something you're interested in. It's not a match. Move along. Love it. This is such a great win. Thank you for sharing. And here's another one. After listening to your podcast, I finally ended a situationship. And a few days later, I wrote a list of my desires in a partner. And one day later, matched with my current boyfriend. We've been dating for 4 months and everything is going so great. He's meeting my desires in partnerships so much more than my ex-husband, previous relationships, and my past situationship. Okay. Obviously, yes, some dating wins are going to include getting into relationships, finding a person. That's great. And I love this because it highlights how important it is to move the F on from your situationships. Your situationship is not your person. Let them go. Write your list. Do your manifest. We talked about that in the recent episode with Matchmaker Maria, and see what happens. Open up your universe to find someone. I love this. Thank you for sharing. I love hearing your wins. And I want to thank you so much for listening. Thank you for trusting me. Don't forget you're doing great. And if you know someone who is navigating dating and could use a confidence boost or some fresh perspective, share this episode. If this podcast has helped you, a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify goes a long way. Once again, I'm Talia. This is Dating Intentionally, and I'll catch you next time.